On the Wake Up Radio presents The Center with your host, DC Radical One.
Greetings, Black family, and welcome to On the Wake Up Radio. I am your host, DC Radical One, and you have entered the center. Shout out to our wonderful producer, Cindy Ashby. You can check us out on SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes Podcast, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, as iHeartRadio at On the Wake Up Radio. You can also check us out at onthewakeupradio.com, and also be sure to go to otwtube.com. That's otwtube.com, and sign up for our producer's platform, where you can speak freely about things that you can't speak freely about, in other places. I see our wonderful producer is here. I see Brother Sar Mayat is here. Before they, Brother Sar. See, Unique One Express is here. Peace to you. Peace to Black Power to Brother Patrick. Peace to Taylor Nubia. And that's all the people that I see so far here. Y'all have to forgive me if I'm moving a step slow today. Just a little lethargic today. Been up since early this morning. But glad that everyone that is here has decided to join us. I saw Brother Sar actually yesterday. At least, visualize him at the conference. So I saw him and his queen were in attendance yesterday. So it was good to see them. And I am going to talk about the conference shortly, and we'll let a few more people come in the building, hopefully. And then we'll get started there. By the way, don't forget to make sure that you smash the like button as you come in. If you like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe if you are not subscribed. Wonderful producer talking about it's hot outside. Yeah, that's why I haven't been outside today. It was outside early yesterday. It's time of year where you have to do something outside, you have to do it early, So I took care of that. According to my computer, it's a good 92. So summertime is here. And speaking of summertime, of course, we're having the annual Straight Black Love Day cookout. That's 2 weeks from today now. So the time is coming upon us extremely quickly. June 20th, 2021, noon until dark, basically. We got, that's how we normally do it. Oxen Run Park Shelter, 2300 Oxen Run Drive, Temple Hills, Maryland, 20748. This event is free to all straight, black, and proud people. And I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I will mention it now. It's worth mentioning, I guess. When I put this flyer out on my Instagram, probably 2 weeks ago now, 2 or 3 weeks ago now, I got a lot of backlash from homophiles who, they found offense, and homophiles and homos and promos, that's what we call them, promosexuals, who, because it wasn't just homophiles, actually, it was more people who aren't homophiles, but promote the agenda, who were offended and, talking about they want to protest, protest or cookout. This. I was like, let's just think about that for a minute. And, we're trying to have a black family event, for straight, black, and proud people. And people are offended and talking about protesting and bringing their homo friends and things like that. So that just goes to show, as much as these people talk about tolerance and, love is love and all this. Okay, well, what's wrong with straight black love? Why is that not love? Why are we facing opposition to a cookout? We're not doing, like Europeans when they used to roast black people. We're not doing that. We're actually, cooking actual food to be eaten and giving it to the people for free. Just ask that you come out and fellowship with us and act in a civilized manner. I know that's something that's foreign to people today, civilization, but the alternative to civilization is barbarism, and there's far too much of that in the world today. So again, the annual Straight Black Love Day Cookout, June 20th, and again, starting approximately at noon. And again, that's at the Oxen Run Park Shelter, 2300 Oxen Run Drive, Temple Hills, Maryland 20748. And again, this event is free to all straight, black, and proud people. And I see the Wolf Report is in the building. BB Fold in Straight Black Pride, brother. And Tila Nubia says but it's okay to have a pride parade. Yeah, indeed. And they want to have that. This is America. They want to express themselves. That's fine. I don't come to their thing and argue with them about it, or in fact, I'm gonna stay as far away from Pride Parade and Pride everything else as I can. I will be speaking of which, I will be doing some short form videos on the pride assault on children, and because I'm sure we've seen some of the things going on with Kellogg's, Legos, and some other people. And so I will be doing a short form video about that, and also some interesting things, excuse me, happening in the athletic arena. Some of which we talked about last week, but there's some additional stuff that's happened that I'm just going to bundle all those up, throw them into a 10-15 minute video. So look forward to that coming up this week. In fact, I may record them today. In fact, before that, you got ripped off, and I need to talk to brother. You got ripped off about the study group, book club study group, the SBPM book club. So we can set that up and get that up and running, maybe the end of the month or so. And let's see. War Report says that's what kills me because they are lockstep with the homophiles. Oh, who the promos? I mean, brother, we used to it at this point. When the logo was unveiled and the announcement was made, we received opposition from mostly young people and mostly young women. That was half a decade, 6-7 years ago now. So, and nothing has changed. It's still the same group of people. It's still young sisters for the most part, or at least who are spearheading the opposition. Most of whom are not homophiles, or claim not to be homophiles anyway, or still deal with men, and then 10-15 years from now they'll be talking about where all the good men are. Not making the connection that their advocacy of homophilia is good men and real men repellent. But be that as it may, we're gonna do what we do. We have this event every year. We're gonna continue. We're gonna have it again this year. Have a good time. So if you're on the East Coast or you feel like traveling, you can do that and fellowship with us and enjoy free food and good times and games and things like that. So we'll have all those things out and do what we do. With that, again, that is 2 weeks from today. So obviously there will not be a show on that day. There will probably be a Monday evening show instead of actually, yeah, to start off. Actually, I'll have either a Saturday night show or a Monday night show, or possibly both. Also, next week, and Lord Bell's not in the building yet. Brother Genie is going to show up next week, so he's going to be our guest next week. We're going to do a short interview, and then he has some information he'd like to share with us, and then we'll do short Q&A. So he's gonna lend us some of his time. So I know you all have been looking forward to that, and I will. Because I actually talked to him this morning, early this morning. So I will get that posted up tomorrow, and so everyone can be aware of that. And I'll remind people during the week via my various social media. So that should be something exciting. He's been around, but people keep asking, "Hey, where's Brother Genie? Where's Brother Genie?" He's been doing his thing, but it'll be good for y'all to hear from the people. Um, uh, Brother, no, my bad. Sister Tila Nubia is asking about a book review for Baba Imhotep's book. Okay, I was not aware of that. So people are interested in that, they can check that out. So Brother Genie will be here next week, and then I'm sure people will be excited about that. So let's get into yesterday. Yesterday was the seventh annual Complementarity Conference, and so the this is, let's see, I've seen, I think this is the second one that I've done uh, digitally, and one I was supposed to go to physically, and I get something happened. Oh, man, I don't think I get the days off or something. I don't know, something. That was like, I guess now that's been 4 years ago. Time moving so fast. But yeah, the Complementarity Conference is always excellent. It is. I think it's more effective in person, to be honest. But because it is an event it is an event that people often come to who are looking, for compliments, as well as couples. And Baba, um, Baba, he said that was part of the objective. I heard him say that in years past, to have something where people, African people, can come together, and African people who are looking can check, interact and mingle and possibly find a compliment there. So that was part of the original objective of it, and so it continues in the digital form because of everything that's going on. So I know Brother Asar, I know he was there. I didn't see anyone else that I see in the chat there, um, that I know of now, if you that I noticed anyway. But unfortunately, I missed Baba Barudi's most of his presentation because I didn't get the link in time. I had paid early in the morning, and I didn't get the link, so I had to remind Mama, and then she sent the link immediately when I sent her a email. So I missed like literally when I came on. I guess by that time it had been possibly, well, it was more than half an hour, probably 40 minutes. And then Sister Tila Newby said she was there. Okay, sister. And then I came on and Baba was like closing out. And I was just like, man. So the way it was set up, Baba spoke first. You had a break, then Mama spoke. Mama Yavarudi spoke. And then you had breakout rooms where the men were in one room and the women were in another room. And questions were asked. Mostly younger brothers asked the questions, and mostly elders, with the exception of one brother who was in his late 30s, I believe, mid to late 30s. He spoke. He had some wisdom, and I'm gonna just go over some of the notes I took in a moment, just setting up the scene of how it was. And so, and comparing it to comparing it to other ones I have digitally attended. And the thing about the good thing about the Complementarity Conference is that it's something for everyone. So there's something for those who are in a complementary relationship, as far as things, tips on things to do, things to look out for, things to ways to maintain or strengthen your bond. That's always a part of it, a major part of it, because of course the Barudis have been together. I think Mama said now 36 years, which is, I mean, that's incredible in today's time. And then there's an elder that has been, he said he's been with his queen for 48 years, which, in other words, he's been with his queen as long as I've been alive. So, that's impressive. I mean, that's stuff I can't even fathom. It's just phenomenal. First of all, living that long, to be with someone that long is an accomplishment. So that Robert, he spoke. I'm trying to think of some other like remarkable people or remarkable relationships that was said, but that just give you a feel that you have elders who've been together for literally a lifetime. What I'm saying? 50 years is a lifetime. A lot of times not community. Sometimes you're a black male, sometimes 36 years is a lifetime. And then, like I said, you had brothers who were trying to think, the youngest brother I saw may have been that I saw visually probably was about 25, 26. And so he had asked some questions and laid some things on the table that I know a lot of other brothers were thinking. And one of the things, at least in the men's section, because that's where I was at, was just a discussion of brothers of finding compliments. Because there was brothers from I believe the brother was in Britain, if I'm not mistaken, or England, or whatever they call it, UK, whatever that place. So to me, it's all the same thing, but I'm sure there's some actual technical difference between the names. But yeah, so he was speaking about finding a compliment where he was, and just the challenges of that. And then when came back to the main section, that seemed to also have been a topic of discussion among the sisters. And a brother was saying that, an elder was saying, he was, from what I got out of it, was that it was possible that that we were overlooking each other, brothers and sisters overlooking each other, because he was basically saying, like, how can we go to these events and be in the same place and no one can connect with each other? And I mean, yeah, that makes sense to a degree, but and I can't speak for every place. But what's interesting here in DC, what we have run across especially when I talk to younger brothers, one of the things that is happening, and we didn't get a chance to bring it up because the event just seemed like it went so fast. The men's section is like maybe about 4 or 5 questions were asked, and 3 or 4 brothers gave their input on the question. And so, like I said, it's probably 10 minutes per subject discussed. And then that hour is gone. Because like I said, it was set up for an hour for Baba, hour for Mama, breaks in between, hour for men, the breakout room to men and the women. And then there was, I think, a little Q&A at the end, and that was it. It was over. It's like, man. So I don't know if it's because I came in late, then it made it feel like it was so short, but it just seemed like that men's discussion was just extremely short. And it was like, yeah, this is worth actually having being expanded upon. And I know Baba Rudy actually has a quarterly men's meeting, so I'm not sure what actually gets discussed in that, but that'd probably be something that I will, if as long as it's not conflicting with anything SBPM is doing, that'd probably be something that I attend. And you could go to Baba's Facebook. He actually shared the flyer. I believe the next one of those is on August 7th, but I did not. He did not disseminate the flyer electronically or anything like that. So, for any brothers that are interested in getting with Baba Baruti with those digital men's classes, that's done quarterly. Quarterly men's meetings, and there's also quarterly women's meetings. I'm not sure at the timing or the days of that. Maybe one of the sisters that saw it can answer that question. I believe it's the same day though, just different time, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm not, can't be 100% sure. Sister Taylor Newby said the event would be more effective as an in-person event. Yeah, from what I hear, the in-person event was the in-person conferences were outstanding. So, and just seeing how it was, and I don't know, to be honest, I don't remember anybody saying it, but I don't know if there were separate rooms for when they did the in-person. That would be I think that would be ideal. Having different rooms, like having a full on convention physically like that, with a venue where you have different rooms to discuss different subjects, not just men and women, but even a whole single event. I think like a weekend of that, I think would actually be outstanding. And it's probably just, that may be, I don't know. That may be something. That may be something I'll work on with. It may be something I'll work on in the future, doing just uh, a full on conference like that, with just, if I can get the people to do it, and people want to do it in person. I don't know how, a lot of elders, I don't know how, I know a lot of elders probably don't want to travel with everything's going on, and just with the way the world's changed in the last couple of years, y'all understand. So one of the things, there were a lot of things that was discussed. So let me do this. Let me go to my notes and just talk about what I took down from Mama, from her discussion, and then I will talk about a little bit of what the men were talking about. But what she had was what she has learned in her 36 years of being in a relationship. And if you've ever heard them speak about their relationship, they are an example. And it's so funny because everyone looks at them as a model for a African relationship, or African-centered relationship, however you want to say it. And it's so funny because when you hear them speak about the beginning of their relationship, it seems like they started off in two very different places, and that they have, well, it doesn't seem like that. I mean, that's how they say it. They were in two very different places mentally. BB40 and Straight Black Pride to BB40, man. And they grew into love. And that is something that, if you read Baba Baruti's Complementarity, or you heard him speak about the concept of complementarity, he has brought out the understanding that elevating to love is very much an African concept, where, quote unquote, falling in love is very much a European concept. And that is something that again, I think I just said this before, but every like literally everything, every subject, every aspect of life, the European idea and the African idea are polar opposites. And because we're in this European environment, everything we do, if we follow along with the European, is backwards. So not just, we always, of course, here, there's a straight black pride platform. We always talk about the sexual backwardness, but we don't talk about how the idea and concepts of love and going about them and going about strengthening them and going about relationships and all of that, we're doing backwards because we're following the European model because we're in a European environment. And many times all we get to see, oftentimes, depending on your age, is oh, Sister Najee is here from the continent. Beautiful ODA to our sister. Hope you're doing well. I'm assuming you're doing well because, of course, you are here joining us when it must be, I guess, 9:30 there. So good to see the sister here. But I was saying we often only see the European model, and so we model our behavior behind that. And of course, lately it just hasn't been working for our people as a collective. And of course, most of us don't really understand why it's not working, not realizing that we're going against the grain of our natural process and our cultural imperative of how we do things. And Sister Tila Nubia said one of the things that hit her was when the sister was looking for some advice regarding her current relationship, where she was the older individual. Yeah, I heard. I heard Barbara spoke on it. If we're talking about the same discussion, where I believe the sister was 8 years older, which I guess it depends on that age range. That didn't really seem a lot to me, but I think just the fact that the sister is older than the brother, I just think that's probably, especially in African centered circles, is probably more rare than the opposite. Just like it's more rare most times where the sister knows more than the brother or brings the brother in. Those things are rare. Now it wasn't said whether the second part was accurate, but yeah, that part about the brother being younger, that was interesting. But again, that, like I said, that depends on like a lot of different things. Depends on the maturity of the man. Depends on where the sister is in her life. Are there children involved? Does she have children? Does she want children? Does he want children? Does he have? I mean, that is such an individual thing. But yeah, it was notable that was brought up. And that's one thing I've heard Bob say, and I'm gonna try to get an interview with him. But it's something I heard him say in another interview, is that we try to that we're not flexible in our understanding, that we try to hold on to these European ideals, and that's one of the things that don't work. Instead of people taking a relationship and doing what works for you, you know what I'm saying, and making it work. Like, in essence, I heard him say, in essence, something to the effect of, okay, you decided on this person. Now you have to go and make it work, as opposed to you like the person and then you see one or two things wrong, and then you on to the next one, and you on to the next one. Actually, it was another barber who was talking about that, because he was talking about brothers, and I didn't know that this was still going on in the community, but I'm not surprised either, because I've seen it before years ago, where a brother will in fact, this used to be a bigger problem from what I've seen. I don't see it as much anymore, where a brother will come in and a brother will come in to the community and he get with a sister and then he get with another sister and then sometimes he got a baby by one and baby by another one, but talking about he can't find a sister, but you already found two to impregnate, things like that. You know, the Bible was talking about that. I don't see that as much anymore here, but I have seen it before. When he talked about it, I was like, oh yeah, we've all seen that behavior. It's like fam, you already got two, you made two families, pick one or both or whatever, but there's no need to the idea that you can't find the right woman after you already impregnated a woman. He was just saying that was anti-African behavior, and I concur. Like once you bonded, you have a child with somebody, you bonded with them for life. So pick them, pick one. You know, that's the way I look at it. Because you're gonna have to deal with the person anyway. So you might as well just go ahead and try to make it work at that point. Peace to Brother Crow. And so the Bible was talking about that. And one of the things about what Rudy talked about was that he said it, and then another brother said it in a different way. It was deep how he said it. But he was talking about, Barbara Rudy talking about for the men, sexual discipline and being African in your behaviors, whether, and the other brother was saying, we have to understand that when you're single, you're still practicing for a relationship. So the sexual discipline and the self-improvement and things like that are going to be beneficial in the relationship, are things that brothers should be practicing before the relationship. And even though I heard it before, even though I've even said it before, it was still profound the way the Bible said it. So it wasn't that it was what he said wasn't new, but how he said it made it more profound. You got ripped off saying we are separated from our natural asili. Indeed, and the European is trying to impose his asili on us and separate us from really trying to rip our minds from us and implant his mind in us. Which is interesting because I remember there used to be a Bible verse about that, kind of putting the mind of quote unquote Jesus in you. So kind of interesting that the Europeans now trying to put his mind in us, at least from a sexual backwardness point of view, and even from a self-hate point of view. Sister Tila Nubia says her last relationship, the brother was 11 years younger. Oh, okay. So that's interesting. And she says also, I see a lot of brothers pushing polygamy. You know, I'm gonna just be completely honest. In polygamy is one of those in theory things. It sounds like it sounds good in theory, but the reality of the situation is, at least here in the West, most brothers haven't mastered one relationship. Like if you can't master one relationship past the point of the Western quote unquote 7-year itch, the idea of brothers having 2 or 3 relationships, I mean, to me, is ridiculous. And then for those brothers that got multiple baby mamas, you already practicing a degenerate form of polygamy. So that's pretty much all I have to say on that. Start with one. That's it. Start with one. It's hard enough to see any person. It's hard enough to see any couple, who make it past, like I said, that European 7-year itch. And the brother says, was religion discussed? Not really, because it's a complementarity conference. It's about relationships. So religion wasn't really discussed. I see y'all got a lot of stuff going on. You got ripped off. No, that wasn't discussed, at least not when At least not when I came in, unless that was something it wasn't talked about amongst the men. I just put it that way. And BB48 man says schools, particularly during Pride Month, are major battlefield where the European assembly is being forced on our children under threat of penalty. Yeah, indeed. The I mean, it's it's something that we should have already known, and people probably just don't. People don't feel like they have a way to resist. But the old saying goes, and I can't remember who said it, but you can't take your children to European schools and then wonder why they come back as Europeans. And that's something that we have done. And then we get surprised and try to figure out, oh, why are they doing this, or where did they learn that? But you drop them off to your enemy. Malcolm X said only a fool would allow his enemy to educate his children. We dropped them off for 7 hours a day with European instructors, European written books, European everything, and many times amongst European children. And then, we see the results, and then we wonder what's going on. And a wonderful producer says, grass always looks greener. If you can't handle one woman, what are you going to do with 4 or 9? Not going to do anything. You're going to do the same thing you did with one, which is, whatever you did with one. And my whole thing has always been with that. No disrespect to any sisters here, but there's not no major surplus of quality women. There may be more women than men, but there's no major surplus of quality women with brothers like, oh man, I know 6 good women. I need to take care of all of them. That's not happening. That's false. Now, okay, who get mad or whatever the case may be, because there's not that many. First of all, it's not even that many quality African-minded people in the West. Period. Man, woman, child, elder, whoever. So the idea that there's just this large number of women that some brother just got to take care of, as his duty or whatever the reason, whatever his reasoning rationale is for polygamy. Yeah. Okay. Sure. You know what I'm saying? I'm not, like I said, I'm not against it in theory, but in practice, good luck. That's all I can say. And we talked about this before. The, a lot of these sisters that you see advocating this polygamy are also bisexual. So that's something that if you're a brother, that's something you always got to look out for. And then, of course, there are also bisexual men who are in it. So, yeah, that's all. And Brother B48, man, says more has never meant better. Absolutely. I've always been a believer in quality over quantity. So that is, my thoughts on that. Now, wonderful producer says these women act like, I'm not lying. Some of these women act like they're raised by wolves. No disrespect to wolves who have culture and nurture in their hearts and minds. I'm just going by what I see, and to be completely honest, at least for brothers who claim to be African centered, I can't speak for every place, but here, the woke culture is pro homosexual. So I know, like I said, I know probably half a dozen brothers who race first, don't have children, gainfully employed, positive, doing work in the community, and they having the biggest trouble they having is finding women who claim to be pro-black who aren't 100% homosexual. So this surplus of women, I guess it all depends on your measuring stick. So it is what it is. And Sister Tigla Nubia says people need to understand when in Africa you had different tribes that practice different cultures. Yeah, no, I mean the underlying culture is all the same, but the different practices also came under different circumstances. And the biggest difference is that the communities were intact and there were rules in place. Here, no one's following any rules for anything. So how people think you're going to try to do something that is outside the norm of the system here? impose it and impose rules when you have no rules for anything. Like, we can't even get brothers to pull their pants up, but we're gonna get brothers to take care of 3 wives. I mean, it is what it is. And Brother Crow says, what about brothers having long distance relationships with sisters from another country? Was that discussed? Yeah, that was discussed. I believe there was one example given where I can't remember the countries, but brother and sister were in a different country. They were able to make that work. My whole thing with that is when those examples are given, the only thing I want to know is time frame. How far back in the past was that? That's my only question with that, and I didn't ask that question because it didn't even occur to me. And really, you got ripped off. Said, did the sister talk about the bondage stuff? Yeah, that's Sister T. Nubia. I wasn't in the women's section. And Brother Sar says, crow is a much more appropriate word than romantic. Yeah, indeed. And he said, Baba Baruti expounded on it. Crow opens the door to affection, promotes gentleness, and continuously affirms intimacy of connection. Thank you for that, brother. That probably was the part that I missed. So I was, I'm glad you added that. I've heard him speak on that before and use that term, but I didn't. Like I said, I didn't get to see that part of the discussion. Yeah, and I know Baba, because I often tell people, I don't practice Roman antics because, of course, you're dealing with Roman antics, then you're dealing with, all the stuff that we see now. You're dealing with Pride Month if you're dealing with Roman antics. I mean, please. I mean, it is what it is. A wonderful producer talking about she hates covering her head. Yes, but you can't speak for everyone. Wonderful producer. So, yeah, I don't. The whole bonnet thing. That's a woman's issue. Whatever. Whatever. Because I look at it like this. I mean, brothers been walking around with do rags for up until recently, for 20 years before that. So, whatever the case may be. There's a time for class, and class in general is lacking amongst men and women. So, because it is. So with that, I'm going to do some of the lessons that I heard Mama speak on, and anybody else that was at the conference, you can interject anything else that you found that Baba said that I missed because I wasn't actually there until that time. And some of these things are kind of, when you really think about them, they're kind of common sense. They're not something like some African centered stuff, as there's some good quality information. But one of the things is that, and I found this interesting, and it's something I heard my mother say actually one time, but she said, be mindful about the roles that you choose early in a relationship. And I found that interesting. And I know my mother had in her house, the inside is her domain, the outside is her husband's domain. So, and that's what they agreed on. So, the kitchen and stuff like that's her domain. And like the yard and grass and what you call it? Yeah, all that stuff, garden and all that stuff. That's the outside domain, and that's the agreement they had. So when Mama said that, that's what I thought about, and she gave the example of being like a mediator. She gave the example of being a mediator, and then she said she got to a point where she's like, "Oh, wait a minute, I'm doing this all the time. It's too much. Who's gonna take care of me while I'm doing all this mediation?" But she was just saying, when you make those agreements, just be sure. And she didn't say whether or not you want to renegotiate that contract, so to speak. But she talked about that, and I found it interesting because it was something I could relate to hearing my own mother speak about that. And but yeah, those that division of labor in a relationship, that's something that has to be negotiated. And I don't think that's something that people talk about. I don't know that's something that people talk about when people are talking about getting into a relationship. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I think most times we all just kind of, not all of us, but most of the time, people just stumble into a relationship, and there is no, the things that need to be discussed beforehand probably, really probably aren't discussed beforehand. And one of the things she discussed, I found this interesting, and I think now, from an African centered perspective, I think this is even more interesting. She was saying, know your family and avoid sharing information with people that don't have your best interest at heart. And I think this is something that happens more to sisters than brothers, because I've heard for years now, right? Sisters talking about how their best friend or their aunt or their cousins or whoever telling them that they can find a better man. Now, normally, now not all the time, but normally, when a brother or a group of brothers see that a brother has a woman and he's happy, we normally just happy for him. And it's only when he's unhappy and he starts discussing things, and then we'll analyze it and be like, oh man, wow. And then you start looking like, wow, I didn't know that. You were so happy. Yeah, maybe you need to look at this or this and that. But up until that point where he has any what's the word I'm looking for? Where he expresses any disappointment or lack of enchantment with the relationship, brothers tend to just be like, man, oh man, that's great. I'm glad you're happy. And that's pretty much as far as it goes, But it seems like sisters more often, for whatever reason, and maybe because sisters express themselves more with each other, and they could be just simple as that. Sisters always seem to have a thing of, you can find a better man. And I think now it's got to the point where most women, from my observation, reason a lot of times situations don't work is that most times, most women feel like they can always upgrade, regardless of their situation or what they bring, or that there's always a better guy around the corner. Now there's always another guy around the corner, or many times in the DMs. You know what I'm saying? In your phone, your text messages, your WhatsApp, and all that. Not necessarily a better guy. And then, of course, like she's saying, sharing more than needs to be said to outside people. Greetings to Sister Poetry. She was saying that is an issue. Not having too many, but I mean, we understand having too many people in your relationship. I'm sure we all have had that situation once or another. Me, I'm normally extremely private, but you're in a relationship with two people. You don't know what the other person is saying. So, but she was just saying that, and she was saying, as far as the family, just understand that, it'd be a situation where, because you're conscious, or you are practicing the African lifestyle, whatever the case may be, your family, if they're Negroes, right, could be against your relationship based on the fact that they don't understand the lifestyle that you have chosen, and could just be disrupting it because of that, not even having anything against the other person, or whatever the case may be. That's something that you have to take into consideration, because when you are a certain way and your family isn't, sometimes they can just be in opposition to everything you do. And if you're in a complementary relationship, that can just spill over to your complement, who's not doing anything other than, the only difference between what you be doing in your relationship as an African couple and what she's doing now is the titles. You see what I'm saying? She can still be cooking for you and what or whatever she's doing. And because you're African now and you're no longer Dave, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You Abdul instead of Dave, they got a problem with it. And you, her, and everything got a problem with the whole thing. So, I mean, that's just one of those things that she talked about that. And as something to look out for. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. And then this thing, then the second thing I wrote down was very interesting. She said it takes a village to help maintain a couple. And I was like, she said that I paused. And I took a deep breath and I started contemplating this idea, right? Because it was something where you like, you know, somebody said something and it hadn't occurred to you. And so since it hadn't occurred to you, you had to take and, you know, examine it in your mind while I was listening to her expound upon it, right? And when I thought about it, I was like, I was talking to a sister one time and she was talking about a relationship she was in, and then she was saying that if they had more, if they had elders who they could lean on and an example that they could see, that relationship probably would have worked. And so that part was interesting because it balances out the first part, right? If you think about it, the first part is she talked about the family, but the second part she talks about the village. So in reality, from looking at it now and thinking about it, there's a delineation between those two things. Your family, because you are African, is your people who you are genetically connected to. Excuse me. The village, right, are your spiritual African family, right? So let's say, and I'll just use the nation for example. Let's say you're in the nation, but your family's not in the nation. Your family is people you're connected to, you know, mother, father, sister, brother, that. Your village, in this case, would be the mosque, right? Or if you are Muslim, the masjid, or if you are part of a, you know, for example, me, it'd be SBPM. That's my village, you know. And just looking at it now, I realized that she made a distinction between the two, and she was saying that it helps to have, for brothers to have elders, for sisters to have elder mamas, to give advice when it's sought out, which is different from an outside person interjecting themselves into the relationship. You see what I'm saying? So it's deep because it's a distinction, but almost it looks like a contradiction at first, but it's a distinction. The couple seeking outside guidance is different from people interjecting their opinion into the relationship and you having too many people in the relationship. So that's a balance there with that. And she was saying that it takes a village to maintain that relationship, even up to the point of something like having people that you trust. Because you can't trust that many people with your children. Something as important as having people that you trust, be able to take care of your children so that you can go and interact with each other. And like Bob Rudy talked about last year at the Complementarity Conference, where you have, I know he said at least one time during the year, I can't remember if it was quarterly, that may have been something that you negotiate in your relationship, but one time a year where it's just you and your complement and y'all go off and have a weekend or a week or whatever, just you and them, you enjoy each other's company. And the way he talked about it, he was like, it's not even a matter of doing, like, not a vacation in the sense of, you know how you go on vacation, you want to do stuff. You're like, oh, I want to go to the beach, I want to do this and that. But he was saying, no, just the vacation is each other. That's how he talked about last year. And you just once a year take a time for you and your complement to enjoy each other and reconnect and refresh and celebrate your union with each other. So that's something that Barbara had talked about last year. Um, and then, oh, she shared this proverb because she was saying there was times in a relationship where she didn't necessarily know if she was happy. An African proverb says that happiness is something to do, something to love, and something to hope for. And she said then when she measured her happiness by that proverb, then she realized that she was happy within the framework and happy um, with her life overall without realizing it. Right? We look. I guess she was really intimating that she got kind of getting caught up in a European idea of happiness, and but then when the African concept was presented to her, she realized that she was relatively happy. Then she talked about the importance of premarital um, premarital counseling, and there's something. It's funny when she said that because it's something that I people that I know who are in the church. I know that's something they advocate, and I think I've heard Bible talk about it before, but for whatever reason, it just kind of like I was kind of like, yeah, that's needed. Then my next thought was who was gonna do it. Then I was like, oh, okay, you find an elder couple and have them do it. I assume, you know, and I don't know how many people do. I don't know how many people in the community do that, but that is that's a to me that's a thing that I think is needed. And tangentially connected to that, there was even a discussion of having elders in various communities kind of play matchmaker, um, and elders will do that sometimes, even without asking. Sometimes elders will, elder barbers will ask, I mean, Barbara, uh, when you think about such and such, you keep going to the same event, same person that's there, they will look at you like, and I'm like, but one thing that the brothers talked about is that the women choose. So I'm like, are y'all asking the sisters this? Because the sisters choose, Barbara reiterated that in the proverb that says, um, a man pursues a woman until she catches him, you know. So the choice is always the woman's. And, that's something I told brothers. I say, look, if you have to pursue too hard, then well, no, I tell young brothers, I said, anything you chase, the natural instincts to run away. So you pursue a woman, you don't chase her, and she'll let you know if she is if she's a mature woman anyway. She'll let you know if she is amenable to that pursuit. One of the things that happens, not really in our community per se. I don't know, but I don't think. But one thing that happens is, like I said, a lot of times, sisters have more options than they are willing to. Um, they have they have enough options to get confused. That's how that's how I can say that. They have enough options that they can get confused, and then what happens is you have so many options. Sister start delaying a decision, and before you know it, you're in your mid 30s, and now a large part of your reproductive prime has passed you by while you trying to, get the best deal, so to speak. I don't see that so much in the African Centered community, but in the Black community overall, I see that with women who have a lot of options. And to be honest, brothers can get caught up in that too, where if you're popular or whatever the case may be, you have multiple people And the difference is, the difference is, brothers will just try to deal with all of them. They try to do the polygamy thing without declaring it, whereas sisters are kind of trying to hold people off and kind of keep people in place, and that's where the whole friend zone thing comes in and things like that. So, poetry says, the funny thing is women think men have other people options to choose from. Yeah, I just look at it like this. At least in the greater dating world, I think what it is in the greater dating world is that everyone has options. Everyone has options, and very few people like the options they have. And that's the major issue, right? Because I tell brothers all the time, I say, look, you can't be insecure with a woman because a woman is offered a man's services every day. You know what I'm saying? Like unless your woman is just, not physically attractive at all, there's someone who's going to proposition her every single day she walks outside her house. And now with social media, she don't have to walk outside the house. All she has to do is post a picture of herself, and the eyes and hearts and all that stuff will go up underneath in the comments. So, yeah, I mean, but the thing about the whole option thing is, like I say, most people have options. They just don't like the option they have. Because if they did, they would just pick one and move on. But no, that's one of the things that doesn't happen. Sister Tila Nubius says, women know at the door how far they want to go with men. Yeah. I talked about that before. When I talked about that before. I already know sisters put brothers in the 1 and 3 category as soon as they see them. I talked about that science before. And I tell brothers that all the time. That I just was happy when I started asking sisters and they verified that information. So that I wasn't teaching falsehood. But yeah, I've been telling brothers that for probably 15 years now. Easy, actually. Probably longer than that. But anyway, and one of the things Mama said was perseverance. And she said there's an adinkra symbol for perseverance, but I did not break out my dictionary to find that adinkra symbol. So I can't, and it was, she didn't put it up. So I would have to look for it. But yeah, perseverance, because I mean, life just throws things at you, and when you're in a complementary relationship, it's just something that two people have to agree to just go through those things together. And what I'm talking about is I'm not talking about abuse. I'm not talking about that. Like, I'm not talking about taking disrespect, like a sister being with a brother that's running, as I heard Minister Farrakhan say one time, running a whole house. Not that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about the normal ups and downs of a relationship. Or, you know what I'm saying? I'm not talking about a brother enduring his woman, going out there engaging with the UPS man. And, that's not what we're talking about here. But we're talking about persevering through the normal ups and downs of a relationship. And this was interesting. It was two things. One should be obvious, but apparently it ain't. And she said, don't put your spouse on the back burner. Seems like that would be obvious. I don't, but the fact she said it means that she didn't think it was obvious. Especially you doing race work, but even regular people. You have people now, you have 2 jobs, you have 2 jobs and your children and your side business and you're taking classes and you this, that, and the other, and so forth, so on. And you end up putting your spouse on the back burner and they don't feel appreciated. And, as a man, as a man, you be the last to know. You'll be the last to know. You won't even notice that your woman is already mentally checked out. And so, yeah, avoid that. Just always value the relationship, value what you have. And then this part I found interesting. She says, have a list of reasons why you are together. and a list of positive attributes about the person. Because, I'm sure long term you can forget. And in fact, I mean, we've all been in a relationship. You're like, man, why am I with this person? She was saying, write that out and remind yourself who the person is. And I found that interesting. And I always, to me, it almost seemed like something that you do that's good to do at the beginning, because you might find out there are not enough good attributes here, and you might need to roll out before this thing is permanent. So, but once you're in it to win it, then you have to remind yourself of that. Um, and she said also have a sense of balance in relationships and in life. Don't let uh, the outside world just overwhelm your relationship to the point where it gets neglected. And I heard Baba Rudy say this. He said date your spouse weekly, which I never heard him say before. Which is and basically carving out time for each other, regardless of what is going on. Make and I've heard brothers say this about sisters, but I'm assuming that he was saying reciprocation. But yeah, make that time out, make it special, even in the midst of the mundane, because I think sometimes we can get bored with each other. We just you get a long term relationship. A lot of times people can turn into roommates if you're not careful, because you're not doing things to keep that spark alive. And I know sisters like to feel special. Every brother has been in any type of successful or long term relationship understands that. And again, you're complimenting with every dude on the internet. I mean, you're competing with every dude on the internet and every dude that she sees in a very weird way. To a point where a woman gets, it's just like they don't care. Other people don't exist, and that's kind of the point you want to get to as a man. And Baba Rudy said that nation building work also occurs in the home. The most important work is in the family. Creating and maintaining a family is nation building work. So, and in this day and time, let's just be honest, a mighty, mighty task. It is building and maintaining a family in an era where they're doing everything they can to destroy the straight black family. And I would it, it's so important, that it's the foundation of the family's foundation of everything, as I think I've said before. And so I know it's so interesting. I know when I was Muslim, and I can't remember the percentages now, but I could have sworn that they had a saying that marriage is one half of your faith, right? So that you only have, and I think Elijah Muhammad one time had a saying that basically said that an unmarried man is like a one-legged man, basically saying that you don't have a complement, that you're handicapped, which is profound. Because then makes me have to look around and think, been working with one leg for a while. Maybe I'm, what am I? What is my lack of a compliment? How is that limiting me? Limiting my potential. So that's something to think about. And I didn't even think about those quotes until literally just now. And Mama talked about one thing she said. It was funny. It should be obvious, but yeah. She said never assume. She said that she knows. She known. She said she known Baba. She known Baba almost 40 years, and yet there'll be times where she will ask him something, and she like, I already know the answer. I ask him anyway, just out of courtesy. And he surprised her with his answer, and she looking around like, oh, okay, oh, wow, never mind, all right. And he, just she said she'll be totally shocked, and so is interesting, because as much as you're together and as much as you learn the person, as much as you're around them, you're still two different people, and people are evolving. And you can, just because there was a time where someone just wouldn't want to do something or be totally against it or whatever, at the same time, you just never know. So she said, never assume. Just, that's where communication is key. Just communicate and make sure, instead of running scenarios in your mind, I guess, which we know sisters do all the time. Run scenarios in their mind and make assumptions, and play out the whole thing before anything happens, and then you go out and say something, and it's like, oh yeah, we can do such and such, and it's like, oh, and then the whole thing is, the whole conflict that you're expecting has been diffused because it wasn't what you thought it would be. Brother Crow says, hold on. Oh, in African-centered world or community, is there such a thing as a person getting married too late or being too old to marry? I've never heard that. Because many times, I've known a few people who, for example, a brother may have had a family, or a sister may have had a family. A sister loses her compliment, for whatever reason, and and when I say lose, I mean the person precedes them to the ancestral realm. That's what I'm saying, and they get remarried. So how is that different? It's different in a way, but to me, I've never heard anyone say it's too late, because something that's kind of seen as an African duty, how can it be too late? Biologically, you can be too late to have children, but I wouldn't think that's the case. I've never asked Baba. I've never heard anybody say it's too late, so I'm just going to assume it's not. And you got ripped off says, wow. Oh, well, isn't Urugu incomplete because it lacks a complement? So because we're not them, many of us try to be them. I think that's what creates African schizophrenia. Oh yeah, that's a good point. Urugu did not wait for its complement and then walked off and then came back looking for its complement. And that is the basis of that concept. So yeah, indeed, brother, indeed. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, but that's excellent. Also, there's a recommendation. Oh, a wonderful producer. Hold up. A wonderful producer said, never too old. My grandma at 90 was proposed to, and we told her, he's 85 and deaf. You're blind, Granny. How's that supposed to work? Hey, well, each one got complementary senses, so that could have worked, he's deaf and she's blind. Hey, all of our people, well, the vast majority of our people are blind, deaf, and dumb. So what's any different? Oh man, one of the producers says, imagine at 90 being proposed to, but at 23 you can't find nobody because your parameters at 90 are different than your parameters at 23. That's how that works. And Tila Nubi says effective communication is the most important thing, besides having the foundation of things in common. Indeed. And one thing Baba Rudy has always talked about is that there has to be a somewhat of an ideological foundation that you're in essence you're going to row boats in the same direction and not row in different directions, because you row in different directions, you just spin around in a circle. And Sister Poetry says there's someone for everyone. I don't know if I believe that, but I lay that alone. Numerically, mathematically speaking, it's not possible unless we deal with polygamy. But I understand what you're saying. Sister to Anubia says, according to someone on YouTube, you no longer evaluate based on age. Well, to whom and for what is always a question. According to that same person, if I'm not mistaken, no one, no man making under a certain amount of money is of much value. So, yeah, you know, some people use African measurements, and other people use European measurements. From an African perspective, people of poor character are low value, and so I think poor character is a bigger issue than most things when it comes to relationships. Because if you have poor character by yourself, you're gonna have even poorer character when you're trying to connect with another person, and your lack of character will affect more people than just your poor character alone. In fact, poor character amongst a group of people multiplies it and causes more damage in reality. So, for example, just an example, a drug addict by themselves may overdose and kill themselves. A drug addict with a family can financially ruin the family, steal stuff out the house, may become physically abusive. You see what I'm saying? So that poor character that affects one person is different than that poor character affecting is multiplied when a family situation. And Brother Asar says a video, the segment on regular dating. He said that is not an option. It is not an option. It is a requirement. That marriage is a requirement. Clarify that for me, brother. I don't want to miss the context of your message. But quickly, while brother is sending me that, sister recommended 2 books, and I had forgot all about these books, and I thought I had them, but when she said it, I went looking for them. I don't have them here. I may have them in storage somewhere. I have some books in storage. I have some books in other places. But Ron Elmore's book it's a book that came out, I believe, in the 90s. How to Love a Black Man and How to Love a Black Woman. And I think she said she recommends brothers reading both the brothers and sisters reading both books. So she recommended both books be read, which I found interesting. And she recommended that book. Of course, she recommended Baba Baruch's book, Complementarity and Complementarity Notes, which I have Complementarity, but I do not have Complementarity Notes. Also, she recommended Baba Senyike's book, Lubrication for Liberation, which deals with conflict resolution and things like that, communication. I have that book. It's a small pamphlet, but it's very powerful. I've had that for a few years, and some of the things in there I have actually used in personal relationships, as well as his interactions with organizational relationships. And she was saying training out young people and teaching them and having them read about relationships before they actually go out in the world. And then I talked about the healthy. I talked about never assume. I'm trying to see if there were any other books. Those were the books, and they also have videoed previous complementarity conferences. So you definitely find value in that, and you can find those at AkobenHouse.com. I believe it's AkobenHouse.com, and you can find Baba Baruch's books and their DVDs there available for sale. And so, and the money goes to their school. I don't think I mentioned it, but I think everybody here knows. But the Akoben Institute is their educational institution in Atlanta. So, yeah, when you support those products, they go to create other products and to support the actual learning center and institution that they have. Um, let's see. You got ripped off says we we got a big problem with so-called consciousness that want men to pay for everything out of a sense of manhood. Yet she didn't think about purchase. Oh wait, excuse me. She didn't think about discussing this purchase before the purchase scene. You know, I'm gonna talk about a topic kind of related to that. I've seen lately um, a lot of provider discussions and 50-50 discussions and things like that amongst women that some of them I actually know personally. And it's interesting because, and I'm going to say this, people may get offended and may not, but within that discussion, I think I said it before, it's a discussion of traditional roles. But have you, as a woman, been traditional, with your virtue, which I discussed in another, in my WAP and wives discussion? Because to ask for traditional roles after you've been non-traditional with your virtue for 15 years, I find that disingenuous. And that's all I'll say on that. Y'all understand what I'm saying? Unique One Express says, as much as I value strong Black African relationships, it doesn't seem to be working for me. I've got to the point where I'm tired and somewhat don't care. Okay, well, hey, I don't know what to tell you, I don't know what you've been doing. I don't know what your relationship, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know what your relationship experience is or experiences have been. I have no way of knowing. But we all feel like that from time to time if you've been single for a long time. Like I try to tell people, we greatly, especially because of the internet, we greatly overestimate the number of people, period, who are quote unquote conscious or African centered. There are times where it appears like more because it becomes the wave, so to speak, and everybody wants to get in on it and claim it and so forth, so on. But when those periods end, you're back to the base core number of people, and it's not a lot of people. Like, I just put it like this. I always tell people this: turn off your computer, walk outside, wear your best African garb or something that lets people know what you believe in, and just walk around your city and tell me how many people actually stop you and say something that lets you know that they are of the same mindset. I've done it for years. I'm almost never stopped. You know what I'm saying? I have a particular sweatshirt that I wear that gets stopped, but in reality, it's very rare. I literally probably 75-80% of my clothing is either African centered or some type of Black designer that lets people know my mindset. No one stops me and said, hey, I'm not gonna say no one, but it's rare. Like, I can walk through this city wearing this stuff and virtually no one said anything. So that in and of itself, other than if I go to certain places. Now, it's a couple of places in the city I can go. Georgia Ave, being one of them, and a couple other places. But yeah, overall, nah. So that just shows me that the percentages of people, who are actually like-minded is very small. So that in and of itself limits your dating pool. That's just a reality situation. And so much stuff is going on while I was talking. I'm not sure. Okay, actually, the White sisters are talking back and forth themselves. Other than sister saying she try to work on herself in most areas, and it seems to get me nowhere. It's just, I just put it like this. You be surprised. So usually what happens, being completely honest, this is what usually happens. When you get to the point where you like, man, forget it, is literally the time where you just literally bump into some person. Like, and I mean, sometimes you physically bump into the person. Oh, my bad. No, sorry about that. You know, it's happened to me before. So that's why I say that. And Brother Crow says it's a very small community when it comes to being African centered, especially when you're living in a place that is not predominantly black. Even when you are living in a place that's predominantly black. Of course, I can't speak for, people in different cities, but most of the East Coast cities are being gentrified. So, if you're on the East, wherever you at on the East Coast, it is, it's getting gentrified so that there's a fewer black people where you are now. So, but I mean, at the same time, people find people all the time, and that's why the discussion of long distance relationships, which I've actually seen a couple of people online make that work, a couple of people on Instagram make that work. So, it's always an option for people. I was about to speak on my personal self, but I'm not. Yeah, no, we're not going there. So anyway, after I talked about complementarity and complementarity notes. And Mama says your roles will change and people change. So you just have to understand that people change and evolve. And it was a brother that was talking about, he called it movement. I call it growth and development. But he was saying that understand, and as a brother explained it to me, he basically saying, if you're alive, you're moving. Or if you're not, if you're not moving, then you're dead. So understand that you're dealing with a living entity and they're moving. And since poetry said that we speak about letter writing, no. I hadn't got to that yet. In fact, I think that's next on the list, unless did I go past that? Oh no, yeah. Okay, yes, right here, my bad. My own letter writing, my own handwriting. Got me confused for a second. She said writing letters allows you to express yourself. And then she said, take the angry letter, you write it out, and then you tear that one up. You don't give the angry letter to your. And she's funny because she said, told us, I guess a sister that the sister wrote angry letter and then gave it to her compliment. She's like, no, don't do that. You tear up the angry one, you burn it or whatever, and then in your calm mind, you write the letter. And I can say, because I don't know if it's because it's so rare. I don't know, because it's something sisters appreciate more than brothers. I don't know, but that is something that it allows you to communicate in a different way, on a different level. And maybe because you have to be more introspective, especially as a man. I've done that before. I didn't even know anything about that. Mama was going to say anything about that. And it does allow at least it seems like a higher level of communication, and allows at least me to express more intimate thoughts than I would express verbally. So she didn't say that's the reason why. That just came to me as I talked about it. And one thing she was talking about, you get older, it's good to have a compliment because you're going to have health issues, and it's good to have somebody that you trust by you while these things are going on. And that these are one of the, these are this part of the growth and development of yourself as a human being and you as a complementary couple. And Brother Saw said dating while married. I spoke. I thought I spoke on that, Baba. I thought I spoke on that. That because Baba he had said weekly, have weekly timeout, and then also that 1 year break or for a weekend or a week or whatever, where you just away to yourself, you and your compliment, and um, keeping rekindling the fire and enjoying each other's company and remembering why you're with this person. So Baba has spoken on that before. So the weekly dating and then the at least yearly minimum, but sometimes quarterly retreat. And he says when they do their weekly dating, ain't phones off, everything. We ain't here. Nothing outside of them exists. So I found that interesting because I know people try to talk to Baba all the time, and I'm sure people try to talk to Mom all the time as well. Um, and another brother said that he said that. Well, I can't remember who said it. I didn't write who said it, but they said that marriage is about daily compromise, but you do not compromise. In fact, it was a Baba that said this part, but you don't compromise your principles. So small things within a relationship is about compromise. There's no need to hold on to certain things and create a grudge and try to get tit for tat and all that goofy stuff. But then, it's just sometimes you just give. You just like, okay, yeah, here you go. Or all right, you're right, and that's just part of the relationship, the give and take in a relationship. It's just, it is what it is. And I know Mama was saying, make sure you focus on your own issues and self improvement, as opposed to always pointing the finger at your compliment. And this was big for the sisters. This is for you all, but brothers too, because brothers can speak in hot anger, and really, you can really damage your relationship way more than you think. And this is where you'll get 7 days of what's wrong and the answer being nothing. Discipline your tongue. Discipline your tongue. Baba Rudy says, don't speak in hot anger, but discipline your tongue. Sisters really don't understand. And she said that women are more emotional, but brothers are more sensitive. Sisters don't really understand, right? How what they say and even tone can be very hurtful to a brother that cares about them, right? He values you, not just your physical person, but he values your mind, and your tongue is a manifestation of your mind, and it's very dangerous. You can be very hurtful, and y'all know this, but I'm just reiterating. You can be very hurtful to a brother, certain things that sisters say, because when you get to a point where you're intimate with each other mentally and spiritually, you start picking on things that will push his buttons. So Mama said, discipline your tongue. Don't get into that game. And brothers, same. We're not as adept as hurting our women with certain things, but our tone at times can be hurtful to our sister, in addition to what we say, right? So disciplining the tongue and being mindful of what you say and how you say it, and understanding that this person is on your team. Even if y'all are at odds in the moment, understand that this person is for you, and that the danger and the damage that can be caused by the tongue, right? And there's a lot of African proverbs that deal with that, and there's also a Dinkra symbol that deals with that. And I didn't really realize we'd be sitting around talking about the Dinkra symbols, or else I would have had my large Adinkra dictionary here. And I actually met the brother that wrote the Adinkra dictionary that I have, which was interesting because when I looked at him, I was like, "You wrote it?" It's just one of those things. You're just like, "Huh, okay." Not what I was expecting, but hey, it is what it is. So also, I'm sure y'all hear the paper rattling, but I can write faster than I type, so I wrote it out. She said, marriage is about two people coming together to help each other heal, and I would add, and grow. And Brother Dawood said, dating while married is great advice, especially if you have children. You can get lost and out of touch really fast between work, raising children, and trying to maintain a household. And that brother knows because he's been, he's been married for I don't know how long, brother. You tell me if you feel like sharing. As Rakim say, I know it's been a long time. You got to be past 20 years by now. So if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong or not. But yeah, that is that brother has experience in that area. Mama said, learn about your spouse's family, this is the thing. When we are in our natural environment, right? The reason that you had quote unquote arranged marriages is not what we thought. The thing about it is that many times people grew up around each other and the elders were looking at who interacts with who. And so you were arranging people that already many times had a bond. Well, all that now has been thrown out the window because technology and people moving further away from each other, things like that. So finding out about a person's family is important. And the brother said, almost coming up on 24 years, almost coming up on 25. All right. So give Brother Dawood a black hand for that incredible accomplishment. He's been married to his queen for nearly a quarter of a century. And I remember he met that sister way back in the day. So yeah, they told me that quarter century later, they still be making it happen. And I would have lost money on that. That's all I'll say, But that's outstanding. Wow, brother. Definitely, definitely proud of that brother. I lost my train of thought. But one of the things as we talk about is beware the power of the spoken word, which is kind of went along with what I had talked about earlier. And said there's an African proverb that says silence finishes the argument. Which I take as not throwing gas on the flame, which we tend to do at times. But yeah, the family thing. Let me get back to that real quick. That's where I was at. The family thing, and I think I'm gonna take this up until I won't go past 4. But one of the things is that when you're getting with someone, you're saying you're going to mix your DNA, your genetics, with their genetics, and you're going to produce a person, and a person is going to be a mix of that. And if you know their family, then there'll be things you'll see. You're like, oh, okay, that's his cousin coming out, or that. And she gave that example, and I was like, yeah, no, that's real. We just kind of think of ourselves as our, a combination of our mother and father, which is true. But depending on how you grew up, there are other family members who have an influence on you, and then other family traits that kind of bounce around and come from angles that you don't expect. So getting to know the person's family, and also what type of health issues run in the family. What type of is there a tendency towards substance abuse? That's something, because those things run in the family. Mental health, those things tend to run in families. We don't think about those things. Like, it's important to know, and this is extreme, but if someone in the family is, for example, committed suicide, What was the cause of that? Is depression a thing that runs in the family? These are things that are worth knowing. And then being completely honest, this is something nobody wants to talk about, but to be real, um, many times sexual abuse runs in families. You with someone, especially brothers, you're running into sisters a lot of times. If you talk to sisters and they open up to you, you'll run into a sister. She's a survivor. It's important to know, really, was that a person that's still part of the family? Is that a person that's still around? Is that person, like, when you have a family reunion, just somebody that she has to see? Is that going to that's going to re-traumatize her? Is it somebody that, because he's part of the family, they're going to be around your children? I mean, these are things that we don't talk about, but these are real, because it affects. It has if you choose to be in a relationship with that person, it will affect. Has affected their entire life. It will affect their life going forward, and then you are part of their life. It will affect you going forward. There are going to be things that trigger her. You know what I'm saying? It may affect your intimacy. It often acts. In reality, it often affects intimacy in various ways. So that in and of itself is a whole thing. And Mama didn't talk about it, but I'm here talking about it. And that is a big thing that wasn't talked about, but is a big thing that many brothers uh, have to deal with. And as time goes on, more and more sisters will have to deal with it. Brothers have experiences that they don't consider abuse. Like there was I'm not actually familiar with the brother, but some brothers, when he was a teenager, he was with Mary J. Blige and she was 25. Brothers don't consider that abuse. But how does that affect his outlook on women and sex and things like that? And then somebody told me that now he's a homophile. So I'm like, okay, well, here we are, right? We always connect the sexual abuse and the homophilia from man to man contact. But he's giving an example of man to woman contact. Again, these are things that you have to be discussed to because these things affect people, and it definitely affect your interaction. So I didn't mean to go off on that tangent, but I just feel like that's very it's very important for us to take a look at and talk about. And I haven't done a show on sexual abuse in a while. I'm doing another one. No one likes to talk about it. No one shows up for it. When we used to do events, no one showed up for it. But it's just something that has to be addressed in the community. Mama said, never make unilateral decisions. Where you just you just decide for both of you. And she said, avoid that. And she said, be grateful for the little things. And also, I think this one is very important. And I think, to me anyway, I could be wrong, but brothers have to be very mindful of this, because this be very dangerous. I've seen brothers do this, and says that don't correct your spouse in public. And this is you can really damage your relationship with that. Correct them in private, support them in public. It sounds simple and obvious, but it happens, and it's just nothing good can come out of it. The amount of resentment that's going to happen from that, the amount of discontent that's going to be caused, it's going to be hard to forget and hard to forgive. So I thought that was wise advice. It's just, just try to avoid that at all costs. Nothing good can come of that. And this was interesting. She said, stay out of grown folks' business. And she was referring, using their child as an example of that, where you don't poke your nose into other people's relationships too much. I found that interesting. Um, and also, she was saying I think I think Mama said this. Um, I think, now don't quote me, but someone said it because I wrote it down. And basically, don't take your financial issues of the household outside the household to other people. And it was said that sisters sometimes do this, and this men feel very demeaned and degraded when this happens. Um, so, sisters, don't do that, please. Thank you in advance. Um, and oh, yeah, and the actual men's meeting was August. Next men's meeting was August 7th, 2021, at noon. Chess or checkers, a question of power. So you can go to Bob Barudi's Facebook page, and he'll have that posted up. So that is something that for brothers that are interested in fellowshipping with other brothers. If you don't have a community to fellowship with, you can do that, and that's an online event, just like this was. So, and let's see, I talked about this part. A man chases a woman until she catches him, and Baba Rudy said that he said for the brothers, he said African men are not whores. We're not man whores. Being a man whore is not African. Um, running around impregnating different sisters, or um, you know, just trying to lay up with every sister that come into the community. He said that's not African. It's not being an Asafo. It's not, um, it's not what we do. It's not, So, um, yeah, I don't have any. I don't have too much to add to that, because this is what happens. Really, this is what happens. It causes the entire. It casts the entire community of men in a bad light. You know, I'm not saying that man has to be a saint, because I ain't no saint. So I'll be sitting up here telling lies, or what I'm saying, engaging in mass hypocrisy. But try to um, limit your um, try to practice some sexual discipline. We understand everything is real. We understand men are men and things like that, but brothers, try to practice some type of sexual discipline. What I'm saying, just don't be running amok. Um, Knocking down everything that's standing up like your human bowling ball. I just put it that way. And see, also, oh yeah, no, okay. I think I talked about this, but Baba Rudy states that age gap dating can work based on maturity and Africanity. He said, so if I believe Sister Tila knew we were talking about that earlier. Don't just automatically discard somebody who may be younger or older. Um, if your maturity levels are, and I guess in the ballpark, and also you're on the same mission, and you're both African. He was saying that can work, and I don't. It's weird. I don't actually see it. I'm trying to think. Do I know any couple like that? I don't actually, that I know of. At least not of an age where it's readily apparent that there's a large age gap. I don't see that. So apparently people haven't tried it, but Baba said that it can work. But it's like any other relationship. The relationships are work, just like race work is work. Um, and brother had this quote. I found this quote interesting. He basically said that the parents prepare people for marriage, and the Creator brings you your spouse. And I don't know if that was an African proverb or if that's just something that he said. I didn't put it in quotes, so it must have been something that he said, not a proverb. I just found it interesting. Um, and one thing Bob Baruti also says too, real quick, is that he always says that if you're doing the work, your work uh, will bring the attention of like-minded people. And I now that part I found to be true. And my mother had said something similar to me years ago. She was like, "Go, you like, what you about? Um, just go and do it and be about it and make that your life, and then you will, uh, you will go to those environments where like-minded people are." And yeah, that I just put it like this. That helped expand at that time. Help expand um my dating pool, you know, and it helped me find like-minded people, and you know, so it increased the percentages. So that is everything that I had note wise. If anybody has anything that they want to interject as far as what they saw at the conference and what they got out of the conference, now is your time. You got about 4 minutes or so before I get off here. And again, with 2 weeks from today, we're going to be having the Straight Black Love Day cookout. And we're going to be out in Oxon Hill enjoying ourselves there. So if you're in the area or you're on the East Coast and you want to do, um, you want to come and engage with a fellowship with us, then you can do that. And that's also on Father's Day. So you want to make it a family outing, you know, that will be fun for the whole family. And the food is free. And so can't beat free food. And our wonderful producer says follow me on OTW2 at www.otw2.com/user/DC Radical 1. And of course, going along the bottom here, you can follow me on Instagram at dc.radical, the number one, at Twitter at dc_radical_ONE. The Cash App is $DC Radical 1, all one word. And of course, this is the YouTube, capital D, small c, radical, the number one. And the email is dc.radical_1 at protonmail.com. Though those are all the ways that you can contact me. And of course, don't forget the long awaited second interview with our brother Irritated Genie will come up next week at 2 p.m. So tell your friends, tell your your social media followers and things like that. That's what we'll be doing next week. Brother Genie will be back, and we'll see if the channel's still up after a week or so, after Brother Genie comes and visits us, depending on what he has to discuss. He has a lot of things he could discuss, a lot of ways to go. And what we're going to do, probably the last half hour of the discussion, we will just take questions from the audience. So if you have a question for Brother Genie, or think about it this week or whatever, and have it ready. I'm sure there'll be more questions than we'll have time for, but he'll try to carve out as much time as he has available. So with that, brothers and sisters, again, thank you all for listening. I thank you all for subscribing. Make sure you hit the like button. I thank you all for your support. I thank you all for your donations to the Cash App. Thank you all for spreading the message and supporting me and supporting Straight Black Pride, Brother Genie, and Bob Baruti, and everyone that's trying to make a difference and direct our people in the right direction. And Our sister Tina Nubia says, hoping to make it to the cookout, but if not, she'll definitely be attending the SBP conference. And hopefully I'll have an announcement on that. Or actually, maybe Brother Janie might have an announcement on that next week. I didn't ask him, but you just reminded me. So, with that, brothers and sisters, again, I thank you all, and I'll say a baby for Hodie and straight black pride.